In this video, we're going to talk about positioning your research. It's another way of formulating motivation for your research. So let's see. This video is based on a different book. This is one of my favorite books about research writing. I'm really grateful to the professor who recommended me this book. Thank you, Asaya. So the book is called The Little Book of Research Writing. Okay, it's written by Chobe, and I'm using the 2018 edition, and it was published by Econ Scribe. Um, in this video, we're going to talk about what positioning is, and we will show, you will see how really you can look at a motivation of a study as positioning it. Okay, we will also talk about how you can articulate or formulate the positioning of your research, and we will discuss some examples of effective positioning. All right, so uh, you know, whenever you do anything research related, be aware that there are more than one perspectives about same thing. So a motivation for a research study could be also viewed as positioning it. Positioning it, in the literature that already exists. That's why positioning. All right. So because you're doing research, it means that there is already something people know about this topic or even the research questions. As you read more and more about your topic, you will find that there has been a lot of work done already on this topic, on your topic. And you can even find, work that has already explored your research questions. And that's totally fine, right? Because even though there is a lot of knowledge out there, um, knowledge can be extended endlessly, really. There are no limits to what we can learn more. So, when you position your research in the existing academic literature, your positioning statement or paragraph, or I don't know, everything you write as a positioning allows readers to see a space in the existing literature that your work is going to take up. All right. So the goal of a positioning paragraph or statement, usually it's several sentences, or it could be actually longer, maybe one or two paragraphs, not really a chapter, right? So the goal of your positioning paragraphs is it could actually be one sentence, really. So the goal of your positioning is really to show your readers what difference will your research make between what is already known and what we don't know, very straightforwardly. Okay. And in other words, you could also state that positioning allows the reader to see how your research advances the existing stock of knowledge. Okay? And when I say allows the readers to see, it's not like you do it, hey, for the reader, it's like another thing you have to do for your reader. No, really, it's very important to understand yourself, how your work is positioned in the existing literature, okay, and what exactly you are contributing to what we already know, okay. So really, positioning your research allows readers to accurately, that means correctly, understand first the current state of knowledge. Second, a worthwhile direction in which this could be advanced. And third, the research question that you ask in order to move in that direction. See, this is an entirely different perspective on what a motivation for your research is, right? But if you think about it a little bit more, it's really quite a similar thing to what we discussed in the video about how to motivate your research based on the Craft of Research book. All right, so it's just one of the ways to do it, which is very common in academic research. Really, the research that you do perhaps to as a diploma, as a thesis, as a dissertation. Okay, and this is the kind of work you're doing in this course. So I think it's really useful to know this perspective. Okay, so your goal is really to write or formulate positioning for your research in such a way that your readers, after reading it, have a good idea of why your paper is worth writing, given what we already know. So, if you think about it, this is the same thing as figuring out the answer to the so what. Remember, right? So what? Why should we care? Right? So, one way is hey, this is what we know, and this is what I'm going to do. This is an interesting direction in which more knowledge should we need, where we need more knowledge, and this is how I'm going to find that more knowledge. Okay, this is my research question. All right. So, this book, Little Book of Research Writing, recommends really just 2 steps for developing the positioning of your work. Step 1, you want to decide how you want to position your work in the existing literature. And step 2, just articulate your positioning, right? Formulate it. Let's look closer a little bit at each step. So in step 1, really, they are really interconnected, but it's useful to kind of have them as different steps in our heads. So when you are deciding how you want to position, you're kind of planning, right? And there are some possible ways, and one of the way is to kind of position your work as the first ever written work to show something new, to show this, right? So here it's just noted as X. So if you think that your work is really the first one to show something that all the existing papers didn't show, then good. That's probably the best way to position your work. Okay, that's the best motivation. That's actually going to be very convincing, believe me. It is possible to position your work as a technique for getting at something. So if you are doing more like a methodological work, right? You're showing some new way of getting at something which was, done differently before, then perhaps you should position your work like this. Another way is as a theoretical framework for studying something. Okay, so perhaps in your work, what your contribution is developing some sort of theory or theoretical framework. It's possible, right? In that case, push this positioning. Another possibility is, position your work as the policy implications of documenting something, right? So perhaps from your work, people should develop and implement new policies, right? Change the rules, right? So if you think your paper is of this kind, then use this kind of positioning. And the list is really it really goes on. And there might be many other ways, and also there might be more than one right answer to position your work, right? So if you are finding yourself in a situation where you think perhaps your paper can be positioned in more than one way, it's a possibility, then experienced researchers usually choose to position their research in a way that readers would agree with, right? So that requires the knowledge of your audience, the knowledge of your discipline, and based on that kind of knowledge, researchers can decide which positioning will really convince their readers that this research is really something they should care about. Okay? So once you decide that, you just articulate that kind of positioning, right? So make sure that your statement explains why your research is worth conducting, and of course the paper worth writing, given what's already known, right? And remember that many ways are possible. It's just your main goal is to show the difference between what's already known and what's worth knowing. Okay, so let's have a look at Some examples of effective positioning. I got this from this book that I showed you before in the earlier slides. And let's have a look at them. Don't worry if they are out of your domain of expertise, right? Really look at this as a writing example, as a writing exercise, okay? You don't need to be an expert in the subject matter on which the sentences are written in order to really learn how effective positioning could be done, okay? So this sentence says, with new computational techniques becoming available, researchers have begun wondering whether the accuracy of the DT process may be improved without sacrificing speed, right? So why is this positioning statement effective? Okay, first of all, it really shows the what's really the contribution going to be. Here, the author is claiming that because we have new, the computers are more powerful now, and we have new techniques for using them, for analyzing things, for studying things. Uh, Other people who already published papers, or maybe just other researchers, they have um, started asking whether it is accurate, whether we could improve the accuracy of something, without, sacrificing some other parameters, right? So the author is doing several things here. So she's showing that why you want to care about her work is because her work actually might show using new techniques, right? New something that wasn't possible before, improving the accuracy without sacrificing speed. So probably before this new computational techniques appeared, the accuracy was also somehow improved, but perhaps speed was sacrificed, right? So you already become curious. Hey, okay, let's see. I want to read this research, right? It seems really important and it should be done, right? So this is one example of an effective positioning. Let's have a look at the second example. So here, the International Development Association is proposing to spend $20 million on something, hoping it will boost another something, but we do not yet have evidence of a causal relationship between the two. So why is this statement effective? Is because you immediately see what's already known, right? So there seems to be some relationship between X and Y, right? And looks like a big agency is going to spend a lot of money on X in order to increase Y, right? But and this statement shows us what we don't know, and what we do not know is really whether there is a causal relationship, cause and effect relationship between X and Y. So the author is really saying, hey, at this point, really, yes, we notice there is a relationship between X and Y, but we really don't know that X affects Y. So is it really smart to spend $20 million on X? Right? So here's the importance of it, right? Hey, we're spending tax money on something which we do not yet know has actually a causal effect on our outcome of interest, right? So as a reader, you agree, hey, yes, I actually think, yeah, I care about it. I want to know how my money is spent, or how public money is spent, and I think it's important to really find out whether if we spend money on X, is Y going to increase, right? So this is a way, this this is another effective way, effective example of effective positioning. Okay, and this is, I think, the last example. Here we see an example listing a lot of sources here, right? But it's effective not because of that, but also including that reason, right? So several papers have called for a formal theory translating L ranks to J ranks. Okay, we have no idea what L ranks and J ranks is. We might have no idea, right? But we see how effective it is because the author is using existing literature, right? These are just four papers, and they are quite recent, relatively recent. And the author is claiming that there has been already um, a lot of published research that have stated the importance of creating a formal theory. Okay, so and the author is really making it very clear that this kind of work is necessary, right? So the author is positioning his or her contribution as theoretical, right? So you immediately know in which direction this work is going to take us, and I think you tend to agree that this is important work, right? So that's it about positioning. We will talk more about positioning and motivation in class. Thank you for your attention.